Welcome to Local Living Tri-City, your go-to podcast for exploring the vibrant communities of Temecula, Murrieta, and Menifee. Join me, Liz Jones, as we dive into real estate insights and local business stories, bringing you closer to the heart of our Tri-City area. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hey everyone, I'm Liz Jones. Some of you know me from the Jones Realty Group at Keller Williams. And for those that don't, I'd love a moment to introduce myself. I was asked recently, how is it that an East Coast girl is over here in California? What brought me to California? Well, in one short word, God. So I'd love to tell you a little bit about my backstory. I'm not going to preach here. I just want to show you the coincidences that brought me to be a West Coast girl. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I lived there most of my young life. And then at 16, our family moved to Tampa Bay in the Florida region. And I grew up there until I was about 41 years old. Well, during that time, I got married. I had some children. And my family was in advertising. So naturally, when I studied at the University of South Florida, I took a marketing degree, graduated from there, and joined the family business. What we did was catalog work for companies like Home Shopping Network or CVS or Home Depot. We would do the photography long before digital photography was a thing. And we do all the artwork that goes along with it. We produce catalogs. It was a fun business. It was very exciting. And at a time where digital photography was just taking off, I felt like it was a calling. Well, interesting enough, I ended up starting almost a competing business to our family business on the opposite side of the coast of Florida, towards West Palm Beach. So I moved out that way and started this business with my partner, my husband at the time. It was doing really well and thriving, but I was burnt out. I was working a ton of hours and I was seriously burnt out. My kids were little and our marriage was struggling a lot because of the hours that I was working and the conflict that came from that. At some point through that struggle, I received a postcard in the mail, and it was a marriage series of how to improve your marriage. It was from a local church. I wasn't a churchgoer at that time. I was raised Catholic, non-attending, and this postcard shows up, and I thought, what the heck, can't hurt. So I started attending, but I had to go alone. My kids were out having fun with dad on the boat, and they didn't want to come to church. It was a good time for me to kind of dive in and really just digest what I had to take in and how I might apply it to my life. And months later, I'm now connected to the church. I'm really feeling the vibe. I feel like something's changing in me, and nothing was changing at home. So fast forward a year and a half later, my kids are now connected to the youth group at church, and nothing's really changed in my relationship. Nothing's really changed at work, still doing my marketing thing. What ended up happening is one day I'm driving to the youth group with my kids, and the pastor raps on my window. I don't know this guy very well. He sits up in the pulpit and he talks, but I'm like in the audience, so I don't really know him very well. He leans into my window. He says, "Hey, when are you coming to work for me?" And I kind of step back, and I'm self-employed in the business. I'm making good living. I wasn't looking for a job. I have no idea what I would even do at a church. So I giggle it off and I say, thank you. And we go on about our way. Several weeks later, I run into him again. And he says, "I'm serious. When are you coming to work for me?" And I'm like, that's weird. So, of course, you plant two seeds like that. I start thinking through it, and the discomfort of life, the discomfort at home, the new belief, everything starts to germinate inside of me. I'm thinking, okay, could I give this a shot? Well, my marriage really was struggling. We were at the brink of divorce, and at some point I found a peace in me to make that break. Part of that meant dissolving the business that we were in or selling it. So I talked to my partner and I said, this is something that I think I really need to do, and I'm ready to do. He didn't like it, but we knew we were both in a place where we needed to change things. And so we decided to liquidate the assets of the company. And in liquidation, we managed to get a lot of money that we both needed to start our new lives. Part of that was accepting a job with the church. Now my business is closed down. He's doing something else, working for a big company, and there's that job still staring in the face. So I went to work for the church. I ended up staying there for a year and a half, and my role was that of an office manager. I lead the church offices, but more importantly, my emphasis was in outreach, the marketing of outreach, which meant helping the church grow, finding people that want to come, almost like creating those postcards that I found when I found the church. So that was a natural for me. It was easy for me to do because I was key witness there. One night I was working late. We worked about 50 hours for very low pay. I mean, it was a serious pay cut. I had 2 kids on my own. I'm living in a humble place with a humble salary. And I was looking for inspiration. What could I say to somebody to help them find this church? There is a known company that was located in California, and it's called Outreach Marketing. And I used to visit their site to look for inspiration because they do just that. They produce marketing tools for churches to use on a mass level. As I'm sitting there, I'm looking through, all of a sudden the careers button kind of pulled at me. As you know, there's always get more information about us and careers. Well, I thought, what the heck? I'll just click on it and see what's going on. And I did. They had a graphic designer position available. Now, mind you, when I led my marketing company, graphic designer were people that I would hire. I would lead a creative team. I would do the sales. I would meet with the customers, but I wasn't the graphic designer necessarily. But I was doing that now with a humble position, with a humble pay. And I thought, okay, I'll apply. What the heck? They're never going to call me back. And of course, they didn't at first. About 3-4 weeks later, I took my once a year vacation. I traveled to California because I always had loved California. I traveled from San Diego to Northern California along with 15 and surrounding areas. I remember distinctively driving up past San Diego into the Rainbow area where we saw the Pala, Pachanga mountains and all of the rock croppings that were there. I felt it was so unique and it called to me. And I thought to myself, what a cool place. And I couldn't even pronounce it. I was pronouncing it Temecula. So I couldn't even pronounce it. But I remembered it. That's more important. And then I traveled up north, saw some beautiful things, went back home. 3 weeks after that, I received a call from the director of marketing of Outreach Marketing. And she called, she said, hey, by the way, we would love for you to come out and visit us. You applied for a graphic designer position, but quite candidly, you're overqualified for that job. We'd like to see if you would come and visit us for a creative director position at Outreach Marketing. And I was pretty jazzed and excited. A chance to move to California, a chance to do the things I'm really good at. So I said, absolutely. A couple of weeks later, we visited, and oh my gosh, it was in April when everything is blooming and everything is beautiful. It just seemed like it was a heavenly invitation. As soon as I arrived there, she made me feel comfortable. She introduced me to her complete crew of artists, and she said, these would be your new employees and team members. And then she said, and this would be your office. It was kind of surreal because she hadn't even offered me the job yet. Of course she did. And of course I met with a realtor while in town and we toured areas and I couldn't afford anything in Vista. So we headed up to Temecula. We toured Temecula, Murrieta, Lake Elsinore. And I remember a lot of spots, but I only had time for about 6 houses while I was here. On the very last house, going in, it was perfect. It was in Murrieta, quiet little street, good schooled area. I remember walking in and feeling comfortable, feeling good. I can make this home. And we went into the backyard, and there in the backyard were these incredible fruit trees. They were just overflowing with fruit, apricots and plums. It just seemed like surreal. Directly under the trees was the owner of the house. She was sitting in an easy chair, and her daughter. And the two of them were very open to having conversations. We were talking about why is it that they're moving from this beautiful place? Well, she goes, well, we're moving to the East Coast. And I said, that's incredible. I'm moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. I said, what brings you over there? She says, God. And I was kind of taken back because I knew that what had happened with this Christian company here in California calling me out for a job and offering me a job position and working in the church and listening to God through all of this, that I had the same experience. So we got very excited. I submitted an offer, and of course, she accepted the offer without any changes, and the rest is history. It wasn't much after that where I ended up meeting my husband today, and I ended up selling my house. We moved our household, blended our families, and I had some time on my hands. I wasn't working anymore. Outreach had moved into Colorado Springs, so that job was in the past, and I felt lost. So I started to do some investing. I had some money. I had saved some money, and I wanted to do real estate investing. I knew I was good at it, and I got a serious education in things like conversion of large estate homes into senior care facilities and converting mobile home parks into a profitable state by buying those that had old dilapidated mobiles on it and then clearing that land, flip opportunities, tax deed sales. I dabbled in all of those in addition to being a landlord, and I had a lot of fun with it. But I realized I was losing money, leaving it on the table by not having my real estate license. And that was 2012. Studied, got my license in 2013, and quickly realized that I can't treat real estate like a hobby. And that's where I find myself today. So I'm going to save this next story to our next chapter of the podcast. And I hope you enjoyed how I was taken just by emotion here to California. Needless to say, it wasn't a popular thing. I left my family, my beautiful mother and the rest of my family behind. And I came out here as a little black sheep. But at the same time, I feel that it's my destiny, and my kids are thriving out here. So I feel blessed. I hope you've enjoyed this, getting to know me a little bit better. My name is Liz Jones. And until the next time.
Thank you for listening to Local Living Tri-City. Stay tuned for more insights and stories from Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, and surrounding areas. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend that is passionate about the Tri-City area as you are. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you next episode.